So are you finally ready to learn how to color code your Google Calendar? If so, you are in the right place. In today's video, I want to do almost a beginner's guide to Google Calendar. I'm sure you know what it is and how to create an event, but I want to show you a couple of cool little features and hacks that'll actually help to save you time and give you more control over how you choose to manage your calendar. So if you're interested in seeing this video and learning more about these tips, please make sure to keep on watching, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and of course, leave any questions and comments down below. Your question could turn into my next video. With that, let's get into it. Okay, so let's talk about how to set up your calendar. So just so you know, I have a ton more events in here, but I did go ahead and hide them just to keep people's names and stuff out of the video, but wanted to show you the calendar in a full effect. But basically, in order to color code your calendar, you have to create multiple calendars under your account. So you'll notice under My Calendars, you'll see a bunch of lists. And then under Other Calendars, you'll see any calendars you've subscribed to. So if you have worked with a coach or maybe on a project or somebody and they gave you a link to a Google Calendar, 9 times out of 10 it appeared under Other Calendars. But you can also customize how those show up here as well anyway. So going back to how to do this, the first thing you need to think about is what categories make sense for you. Now you're looking at my business Google Calendar, my Google Workspace account. So the bulk of these categories have to do with business. I will be honest with you, for my personal email, I do not use that calendar. I just go ahead and add everything in one place. So I have a calendar called personal. This is where all of my doctor's appointments or car maintenance, hanging out with friends, all of that goes here. And then everything else, I really thought about where do I spend the bulk of my time in my business. So my core calendar, this is what syncs to my appointment booking tools. So if you use things like Dubsado, Acuity, Calendly, 9 times out of 10, when they connect to your Google Calendar, they're going to ask you what calendar you want to sync it to. So this one with my name on it, this is the standard calendar you get with your account. Everything tends to go there, which is why it's unchecked, so my appointments aren't there. The next big category, CEO time. That's when I'm working in my business. The ClickUp calendar was added when I decided to sync ClickUp to my Google Calendar. That is something you can do within the tool itself. ClickUp is a project management tool. And then the other ones, content creation, live streaming, reminders and tasks come with your account. And then the Founder Circle is my group coaching program. This is a calendar I share out with other people. So the reason why content and live streaming is separated is because I want to be able to actually add the days and times I'm going live on my calendar, so I don't plan anything else during that. So let's say you want to do this, you want to add another calendar. What you want to do is come to your calendar page where it says other calendars, hit this plus sign. And what you want to do is click create new calendar. In this case, you want to go ahead and give it a name. So let's say I wanted to create a calendar for, let's say, coaching calls. And then from there, you can add a description in here. I never do this unless I know I'm sharing this with other people. And then you want to select the time zone that the calendar is in and then hit create calendar. Once you are done, you will notice that the screen is going to refresh. It's going to give you the option to create another one, but you'll see here in the left-hand side, our coaching calls calendar is now available for us to edit. So if you click in here, you can now see a bunch of other options. Keep in mind, we're going to come back to this, but I want to now show you how to change the color of this. So if you come back, you'll now see it here in alphabetical order. If you click this X, this will actually delete the calendar. If you click these 3 dots, you now have the option to customize it. So if you hit display this only, it will actually uncheck all of the other calendars so that all you see on your screen is this calendar. You can actually hide this from the list altogether. You can, if you hit settings and sharings, you'll go back to the page you were just on. And then down here, you have the option to pick a color and it'll change how this shows up. If you want a custom color, hit this plus sign and put the color code in. So if you use things like Canva or Photoshop, you're familiar with color codes. You can also just Google color codes. You could say shades of pink color codes and it'll show you a bunch. You can just select, copy and paste to put them in here. So that's how you create the color. Then from there, let's talk about putting it on your calendar. So if you just click anywhere on your calendar, you can add an event or you can go the old school way and just hit the create button. So I'm going to go ahead and create a test event and I'm not going to play with the date and time. But what I am going to do is come down here to this calendar icon. So right now it is on the CEO time calendar, but if I click it, I can put it on our newly created coaching call calendar. You see it's purple. hit save, and now it's showing up here. I can go ahead and say, you know what, I want to add another test event, and I want to go ahead and put it on that same calendar, and you can hit save. And then of course, you can come back in here and you can fully edit it, do whatever else you need to do. And once you come back, if you don't want to see that calendar, just uncheck it and it's gone. I want to go back into settings and sharing and talk about other things you can do. So, a couple things that you may want to think about doing is making the calendar public. This is something that you might want to do if you are, let's say, creating some kind of public community calendar. So, let's say this particular calendar is for all of the upcoming volunteer events. You want anyone and their mom to be able to see it. You would actually make this available to the public. The make available for the KSM group, this is our domain, this is our company name, and we have a company email. So basically what this is saying is anyone who has the same ending email as me at thepowercollective.co, they can actually see this calendar. I can give them a shareable link and they can actually add events to their calendar, or they can just see when I'm free or busy. You have the option of sharing the calendar with specific people. I'm going to click this because when I do, it immediately shows people's email addresses. But when I click this, you can type someone's email in and you can give them edit-only access. So give me a second to type an email in here, and then I'm going to come back and show you what you. So I've gone ahead and put an email in here, and now the next step is to set permissions. So again, I can go in here and say, hey, I want them to be able to see all of the event details, or I only want them to be able to see when I'm free or busy and high details. So where would you actually use this? You would use this if you are trying to give a team member access to your email account, or to your calendar, but you don't want them to be able to make changes to it. This events tab, if you want to automatically set up event reminders and notifications for all of your events moving forward, you can do that here, and it will automatically be applied to any of your events. Here, you can actually set up how you want to be notified. So you can choose to get emails whenever things are done to the calendar, whether there's new events added, events changed, events canceled. This is good if somebody else is managing a calendar. This last one, though, is really interesting to me, the daily agenda. This is really good for y'all that have a lot of appointments, like you're like triple, double booked. What this will do is this will actually allow you to get an email every single day with an overview of all of your appointments. I remember when I was working in corporate America, one of my old managers used to print out her calendar every single day and carry it with her throughout the day. So if you are someone that likes that agenda style look, you can do that. And additionally here, again, if you're creating a public calendar, you can either share this public URL or you can embed this into a website or a web page. So something for you to consider. I wanted to come back in and go back up to the sharing with specific people. So when you're using a Google Workspace account, let's say you're like, I really want my virtual assistant to be able to add events to my calendar, edit events, take things off. In order for someone to have the ability to make changes to events or make changes and share events, invite people to events, if you want them to invite your clients to calls, they have to have the same domain email as you. So when I was sending the invite to my personal Gmail in the beginning, I only had these two free, but I went ahead and plugged in my admin's email, whose email is like her, it's not her name, but it's like admin at thepowercollective.co. Then we were now able to select these make changes to and manage sharing. So just something for you to know budget wise, if you want your virtual assistant or executive assistant to have calendar managing abilities, you have to be prepared to pay for an email address for that particular person. So I wanted to do a quick interjection to let you know that I am using the paid version of Gmail. The paid version is called Google Workspace. And in that, you get your own dedicated Gmail, Google Drive, calendar, and a bunch of other tools that are connected to your business email address. Basically meaning it'll be at yourdomain.com. So if your domain is thepowercollective.co, then your email will be at thepowercollective.co. And you actually get a really cool admin dashboard where you can manage any of the email addresses associated with your domain. So I probably have about 5 or 6 different emails associated with my domain. And what's nice about having the paid version is I can actually change those emails. So if I don't want my email to be Kyshira at thepowercollective.co anymore, I can change it to CEO at thepowercollective.co and it'll all be the same mailbox. So I know I'm going on about Gmail, but I wanted to let you know that I am using the paid version. So some of the features that I'm showing you today may differ in the free version. So just keep that in mind. So now that we've gotten the fun stuff out of the way, let's talk about your Google Calendar screen. I want to make sure that you know how to use everything on here before we move on to creating events. So let's start with the right-hand side of the screen. You may have different icons as me, but I want you to go ahead and start clicking on them. If you ever want to add new icons, hit this plus sign and it will open up the add-ons menu. So you can add on a ton of different tools, some third party, some not. Definitely play around with this. As you can see, I don't have any third party tools on my timeline or on my calendar. I just have the standard Google tools that I'm pretty sure it's loaded up with. So on my screen, this little icon is for Google Keep. Google Keep is basically, to me, a post-it note dashboard. You can go ahead and click take note. You can put a title, you can put a note to yourself, and you can hit done. And if you ever want to go back to it, just go to keep.google.com and make sure you're signed into the correct account, and you will be able to see that note that you put in here. So that's Google Keep. The next icon is for task. So if you want to go ahead and add a task to your calendar, but it doesn't make sense to make it an event. So maybe this could be called Tasha, whoever that is, right? You can put that in here. You can add any details. And then the details could be follow up on contract. You can set a due date and time. You can then select if you want this to be a recurring thing or just a one-time thing, and then hit OK. And then once you're done, now this is here in your reminders, and you can see your reminders without even having to go to a whole new page. The next one is Google Contacts. I don't use Google Contacts, but if you want to have a digital address book, you can totally do that. And then the last one is Google Maps. So if you are basically trying to figure out how far a drive is, if you're having a coffee meeting or an in-person meeting, you can go ahead and do that right here from your Google Maps. The next thing on here is up here above. So you have a search bar. If you're trying to search for different events, maybe something that happened in the past, you're trying to find the details, you could just type it into search. This support icon will take you to Google Calendar support, where you can find articles and videos. Then you have the settings menu. Under the settings menu, you can go to your overall calendar settings. You can go to your calendar trash, and yes, this does exist. This will allow you to see any events you have removed or deleted from your calendar. You can adjust the density and color of how your calendar looks. You can print your calendar, or you can do add-ons, which is the same as this little plus sign. I'm going to go here in settings because this is important. If you want to adjust the language that your calendar is in, let's say English is not your first language, you can do that here. If you need to adjust what country you're in because you moved or you just don't live wherever it set you up as, you can change that here. If you want your date to display differently, you can adjust that. You can also adjust if you want your time to be shown as 1 p.m. or in hours like that. The cool thing about time zone that I appreciate is that you can actually choose to display multiple time zones. So if you're like me and maybe you have a ton of clients in different time zones, you can actually update your calendar to show both your time zone and the other one that you're interested in. And we'll go back to the calendar to see how this looks. Then under here are basic default settings. So you'll notice whenever you create a new event, it will default to 1 hour and you have to adjust it. You can actually come in here and say, no, default to 30 minutes. And obviously you can adjust per event, but if you know that 30-minute meetings are more of your primary time length versus an hour, you can adjust that. And then these are just notification options, viewing options. How much do you want to see? Do you want to see the client events? Do you want to see the week number, which is more of a calendar tool, like, knowing what week of the year we're in, things like that. So this is where you really have a lot of customization. I really want to come and talk about working hours, because if you have a very strict work schedule in your business, let's say you're 9 to 5 and there is nothing outside of that, you can actually enable working hours. Or if someone sends you a meeting that is outside, a meeting request that is outside of your working hours, they will get a warning. So they'll get notified like, hey, this person does not do meetings after 7 o'clock. You will still get the invite, but they will get a warning. So something for you to consider. So let's go back out to the calendar. And notice here how we added that secondary time zone. Now we can see them both in the same place. So you can always know what time it is in the other time zones you care about. So let's go to creating an event. You'll notice when you click create an event, you'll get this like quick add option. So you can just quickly go ahead and add an event to your calendar. Or if you are looking right at the day and time that you want, you can click right in it and the same thing will open up. And no, you will always be able to change the date and the time. So I'm going to go back to create, and instead of filling this out, I'm going to click more options. Clicking more options will get you the full view of creating your event, and I'm just going to walk through it. So the very first thing here is the name of the event. So let's say you're having a brand strategy meeting. That's the title of your event. You can come in here and select the date, select the time, and let's say this is an all-day meeting. You can select all day and it eliminates the time. I only do this if we're doing like a multi-day retreat or conference. Most times that's not needed. Let's say this is a recurring meeting. Like, hey, this meeting always happens on Fridays. You can set it as weekly on Fridays, on the fourth Friday of every month, on the last Friday of every month. Maybe it's always on the 25th of every month. Of course, you can make it daily. You can come in here and custom, and you can even curate your own set of recurring times that this meeting is happening, as well as when to end the series if that's for you. But the thing I really want to tell you, if you are sending invites to people who are in different time zones, please make sure to select the time zone that you are meeting in. So if you're trying to meet at 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, you want to come in here and select that. So that way, when they get the invite, if they're in Eastern, it will update to the correct time versus not doing so. So that's that. Then here you have event details. This find a time tab, it only really works if you are adding people who have public calendars or calendars that are available for view, especially if you're sending it to somebody in your company. You all have the same domain, that works. But in my world, I never have a need for this. So I come over here to event details. So here you can add the location. If you're meeting over Zoom, you can just put that in here. Or you can put the URL in here. You don't have to select from this drop down list. Even though this drop down list is popping up, you don't have to use that. So you can go ahead and type in here what you want. If you don't have Zoom or you want to use Google Meet, you can click this button and you can join with Google Meet. I'm going to take that out. The next thing is add notification. So you can actually add notifications to go out to people, minutes before, hours before, days before, weeks before. You can add multiple notifications. And the cool thing is you can say if you want it to be a notification or an email. What's the difference? So if someone is using the app, they will get a pop-up on their phone or pop-up on their computer saying, hey, you have a meeting in 30 minutes. If you select email, they will actually get an email saying, hey, reminder, you have this meeting in 30 minutes. And you can actually go ahead and set up both. So if you want them to get both an email and a notification, you can set those both up. Additionally, you can go ahead and click that calendar that we were talking about right here from the event. You can also set your availability as busy or free, and then you can put details about the event. What I love about this description box is you can actually go ahead and add an attachment, and it will actually open up your Google Drive. So if you already have a working folder, working document, you can add those right here in the event. You can also create a meeting notes document, and immediately a doc is created in Google Drive called Notes Brand Strategy Meeting. It is included on the calendar invite, so everyone involved is able to go ahead and open it up. So let's say you have your VA on this call. They are able to take notes during the meeting, real time, right there, or they can use this to put the agenda. Completely up to you. And then the last section, adding guests. So that's something you already know. You can put everyone's email in and call it a day. But don't forget about guest permissions, because if you want your guests to be able to modify the event, like add things to the description section, you want to leave this checked. If you do not want your guests to be able to add others to this invite, you want to uncheck that. If you do not want your guests to see the guest list, uncheck this. When would you use this? If you're sending an invite for a large event, a conference, workshop, retreat, you may not want everyone to see all 150 emails that are on this invitation. So that's where you would do that. And then from there, you would hit save. And you are good to go. So let's say you've added your guest to an event, but you need to send them an email. And let's say it's a lot of them. So you really don't have time to copy and paste all of these emails. You can actually send an email directly from your calendar invite. So I went ahead and added myself to the calendar so that you could have an example here. If we hit this email icon, we now have the option of sending an email directly to everyone on this event, and they will all be BCC'd on it. So if there's multiple people on here, they won't be able to see each other's email address. And one thing that you'll be able to do, if let's say you send this event invite to 3 people and 2 accept and 1 doesn't, 1 has not responded, like I haven't responded yet, you'll see the option to check or uncheck boxes next to all of that. So you can decide to send this email only to those that accepted, or only to those that have not accepted, or only to those that have declined. You can actually send an email to them, and you can choose to send a copy to yourself. So that's something else you can do. You can also open up a Google chat box. So if you need to do an instant messenger discussion with someone, you can go ahead and open it up. As long as they have Gmail, you can come in here and you can actually have an instant messenger conversation with them directly from the calendar invite. All right, 3 more quick hacks and we're done. So let's say you've created an event. Primarily, I will only do this with an event for myself. But let's say you've created an event and you need to quickly reschedule it. You can actually grab your events and drag and drop them anywhere you need them to go on your calendar. So that's a really quick way to go ahead and move things. The next quick hack is change how your calendar looks. So right now we're on the weekly view, but if we click up here where it says week, we can actually choose to go to the daily view. We can go to a scheduled view where we can kind of see everything in like an agenda style, 4-day view, the week view, which we already had, the month view, as well as the annual view, which is very intense. You can also choose to not to show weekends. So if you're like, this is my work calendar, this is only for work, Monday through Friday, you can choose to do that. And then you can also, again, choose to show declined events. And the very last thing, we're going to go back into settings. If you want to change the starting date of the week, let's say you don't want it to be on Sunday, you want it to be on Monday or Saturday, you can come in here under settings and then scroll down to view options, and you can actually go ahead and change that as well. So with that, I hope that you enjoyed this beginner's guide to Google Calendar and Google Calendar hacks. If you have additional questions on Google Calendar, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to see me continue this series where we talk about Google products that I use in my business and how to navigate them, please let me know which tool you'd like to see next. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.